this in 20 minutes or less every Sunday. Quite a job. So we really can't go into all of the aspects of any one subject at one time. So life from the pulpit is a balancing act. We try and present one point of emphasis this week, another point of emphasis, a counterbalance, hopefully, the next week, so that we can find a midpoint, a balance point in our understanding of our faith. Because most of the problems of errant practice, of the errant practice of Christianity, often occur when people go off on a tangent and have one point of emphasis to the exclusion and impoverishment of all the other important points of the gospel. There was a 18th century German philosopher by the name of Immanuel Kant. Many of you have heard of him, I'm sure. He's still influential today. And he came up with a dialectic that reflects this point and counterpoint and then balance. We call it the Kantian dialectic. There is the thesis, a statement, a point, a fact, an antithesis or an antithesis on the other side. And then we put those together and we find that right mixture that makes our faith work. Now I bring this up because we are on the cusp of a great endeavor to change and reach out to our community through the programs that we will utilize in our new Family Life Center. No, I'm not calling it Belco's purposely, all right? And we will see energy, engagement, and involvement. And that's wonderful. But to what end? How we envision our opportunity and task is critical. We will be involved in many activities and mission endeavors and initiatives. And that's great, because the scripture says to us, faith without works is dead. But where is our point of balance? In the Gospel of Mark, the 12th chapter, we read these words. One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked him, of all the commandments, which is the most important? The most important one, Jesus answered, is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second one is this. Love your neighbors yourself. There is no commandment greater than these, said Jesus. We try and reflect that in our church's motto. Remember our church's motto? Loving Christ, serving others. We'll be doing a lot of serving. We'll be doing a lot of the second part of that motto. Let us make sure we also serve the first part. Sue and I, not too long ago, rather, we rented a car at an airport. We got in, turned the key, and a light came on as we drove and then eventually got to the point of turning off the car. When we turned it off, this light came on and it said, "Please check the back seat for packages and people." What? And I looked at my wife like, what? But you know, in today's world, people are leaving their children in the back seat of their vehicles. They're leaving their kids, the ones they love. Sometimes, tragically, death ensues in a warm, hot car. Not because they didn't love their children. They did. But in the rush of life, in the busyness of what's next, they forgot their child. Is it so strange to think that maybe we, in the busyness of serving God, may forget God? Frank Frischkorn, who most of you know, the executive minister for American Baptist Churches in Pennsylvania and Delaware, in his most recent newsletter, quoted a revised version of Psalm 23, written by Wayne Cordiero. And this is the way it went. "The clock is my dictator, I shall not rest. It makes me lie down only when exhausted. It leads me into deep depression. It hounds my soul. It leads me in circles of frenzy for activity's sake. Even though I run frantically from task to task, I will never get it all done, for my ideal is with me. Deadlines and my need for approval, they drive me. They demand performance from me beyond the limits of my schedule. They anoint my head with migraines. My in-basket overflows. Surely fatigue and time and pressure shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the bonds of frustration forever." Some of us can relate to that, can't we? And then we have the words read to you this morning. Remember your Creator. Remember Him. Remembering is an interesting word. It conveys where your focus is. We forget a lot of things. For example, we forget about gravity, don't we? You probably didn't wake up this morning and think, man, I'm glad there's gravity. Being an old guy, I'm not always so sure that I'm glad that there's gravity, but nevertheless, we'll assume that we're glad that there's gravity. Otherwise, we'd be floating around. We wouldn't be able to walk or digest food. Gravity is a governing force that God has set up to help this earth function and help us function, but we don't think much about it. Is God like gravity to you? A force that keeps things going in your life, but is rarely given much thought. The text says, remember God. Consider your car's windshield. You know how hard it would be to drive without a windshield? You would arrive at your destination this time of year, especially with bugs all over your face and your hair blowing in all directions. Thank God for your windshield. But do you ever get into your car and think, man, I'm glad I got a windshield? Is God like that to you? Do you look right past Him and forget what He does? The text says that we should focus on God and that we should remember Him. He's not a windshield and He's not gravity. Neither of those things care whether or not you recognize them or acknowledge them. But God does care. What separates God from a windshield is He's a person. And when you go a few days or even a week without remembering your Creator, you function independently of Him. Unlike the windshield, He cares about that. He cares about that. I remember number of years ago when I became aware of a personal crisis that gave me insight into the challenge that we faced. I can't remember exactly the year, the time, the place. It was long ago, but I do remember my reaction. It may have been the result of hearing a message or a sermon, perhaps reading a book, but I distinctly remember that my Christian life was sorely lacking in the passionate love of God. I didn't have what I thought was the requisite affection or the yearning to know and love God. I wasn't angry at him. I didn't doubt his existence. I wasn't wrestling with the problem of evil. I was being a faithful Christian as best I knew how. But it occurred to me that I didn't feel any real need for the love of God. I realized that that feeling is not what we base our salvation on. The Campus Crusade for Christ used to have a little tract and had an engine. The engine was the fact of Christ's resurrection, dying on the cross for us. And the coal car was faith, our reception of that gift that he offers us. Feeling was the caboose. Sometimes we put feelings before that. I'm not saying that feeling should dictate that, but we are emotional creatures. And is there that sense of real love and connection and relationship that you have and need with Jesus? I realize that even though I prayed and read Scripture regularly, that not much in my life would seem to be different